What's up, y'all? A little faith, and welcome to episode number 8 of
the Fagnostic Podcast. Yeah.
Y'all, if I'm still giving you episodes, it means that I'm still looking for answers. And y'all, today I have Curtis Galloway with us.
Love me.
Curtis was
supposed to love me.
Curtis is the founder of the Conversion Therapy Dropout Network. He grew up in a small town in southern Illinois. When he was 16 years old, he was subjected to conversion therapy, an experience he was later able to use to ban conversion therapy in his home state of Illinois.
We did it, Joe.
Curtis went on to be a leading figure in many LGBTQ+ organizations in the Midwest. Now living in LA, Curtis has taken his activism to the next level and founded the Conversion Therapy Dropout Network to bring survivors of conversion therapy together in community and solidarity. Here is Curtis.
Curtis was supposed to love me.
Curtis, thank you so much for being here today. I'm so excited to talk to you and about the Conversion Therapy Dropout and just hear your story from how that developed, where you have come from by going through that experience, because I'm sure a lot of my listeners have also been there as well, which is heartbreaking. But hopefully, thanks to your efforts and conversations like this, there will be less and less need for conversion therapy dropouts going forward. So I start every episode off first with gratitude for you being here and giving me your time today, but also with the question, are you a believer?
Yeah, well, first, thank you for having me. I'm always very happy to share my experiences, and I always see you posting about your podcast, so it's very exciting that I'm going to be on it. Am I a believer? Well, I believe in some things. As far as Christianity, no, I don't consider myself a Christian, but I do believe in other energies and spiritual entities and higher powers, as it were, but not specifically in the Christian sect. So yes, I am a believer in something.
In something, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. And just so we don't assume anything, can you identify your pronouns for us?
Yes, it's he, him, or they, them. Either one works.
Awesome.
Usually he, him.
Sure. So. Well, thank you for clarifying that. So give us the rundown. Who are you? Where'd you come from? And what are you doing now? And we're going to really dive into those 3 areas over the next hour. But give us a quick synopsis about who is Curtis Galloway.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Southern Illinois. I grew up in a small town called Benton, Illinois. And I lived there until I moved away to college back in, when did I move? 2014. Moved to college, and then after college, I went and lived in St. Louis for a bit. St. Louis, Missouri, and I was doing wedding industry work out there, all while doing my activism, of course, and there's a lot in that. I did do work while in college to ban conversion therapy in Illinois, and so I testified in front of Congress and the governor of Illinois at the time. It was Governor Rauner. And then I went on to be involved in some organizations for LGBTQ youth. And then after I decided that I was completely done with the Midwest, through my connections with the organization, I moved to the LA area. I first landed in Azusa, which is pretty far out there. But within a few months, I was moving into LA and moved around since then, and I landed here in Century City now. And have founded my organization, the Conversion Therapy Dropout Network. I am a conversion therapy survivor. I was taking conversion therapy when I was 16. Still living with my family, of course, and that was back in 2010. So it was before there was a ban in place, of course. So
well, and the ban being a result of partly your efforts as well.
Yes.
And then, but going back to Azusa, that's actually how you and I met.
Yeah.
Back in the day, and I have no shame about this whatsoever, but I was really struggling just doing the gig economy here in LA and doing a million jobs. And I was very thankful at the time to have Lyft as one of those gigs, or Uber. I don't think I did Uber. I think I just did Lyft, but allowed me to like really keep myself above water, and also allowed me to meet some of the most incredible people in any line of work that I've done, just because of the happen chance surrounding it. But I also, I tell people that do these kind of gigs, like, the job is what you make it. The energy you get from your passengers is the energy you give out to your passengers. And I was driving you with David and Nikki Duncan somewhere in Beverly Hills, I think, like
Yeah.
some event that you guys were at, and then schlepped it out to Azusa. But in that car ride, got to know the whole story. And it, to this day, is one of my favorite quote unquote chance encounters that I've ever had with random strangers. And full circle, like here you are today talking about your efforts in banning conversion therapy, and creating that community for the survivors. So, how did you come to who are they to you? Because I also want to, this show is about stressing the importance of allyship, especially in religious circles, which is where they came from. So how did you connect with them?
Yeah. So I don't remember what we were doing that. I think there was like a drag show or something. It was, we had a few drinks at that point. So, conversation
hence
was
the Lyft
flowing.
ride.
Hence the Lyft ride back to Azusa. Yeah. I was living in St. Louis. I was also driving for Uber and Lyft out in St. Louis. I had come to, we had like a garden party with some of our board members. So I served on a board for another organization at the time, and we had a garden party in the spring of 2018, I believe. Yeah, the spring of 2018, and I met David and Nikki through that, and they took me out to WeHo and bought margaritas at the cantina.
Oh Lord.
Just kind of went from there. It was a good night, but I really got to know them there, and they were actually from St. Louis as well, before they moved out here. So I expressed to them that I really wanted to move out here. I'd always wanted to move to LA. It's because I think it's so beautiful out here, and of course it is. And they're like, well, we have a house with 2 extra bedrooms. You're welcome to move into one if you want. I was like, oh, okay. So I thought about it, and I reached back out to them once I got back, and I was like, hey, if you're really if you're really serious about letting me come stay with you, like I would love to. And they did, and they let me stay there rent free for as long as I needed to get on my feet, which was just amazing. And so I lived with them for a bit. I packed up my bags. Actually, 3 years ago on Friday is when I arrived in LA for the first time. So 3 years ago today, I was leaving to go to LA and drive all the way from St. Louis here. It took me 3 days to do it.
Yeah.
So that's how I met them. But they were very important, kind of like my adoptive family once I got out here. They were letting me live with them and use whatever things I needed around the house. Obviously, I was paying for groceries and stuff like that, but just letting me stay in their home rent free. So it was really
amazing.
Important. Yeah, I wouldn't have been able to move out here without it.
I totally get it. I think a lot of us here who move here, whether it's for creative pursuits or just to escape, the lack of open-mindedness and grace that is notorious in the Midwest and the South, have found those people that have been like, look, let me gift you this experience so that you can then, do what you want to do. But that's also is a testament to you in attracting those kinds of people. And in that, I also know that their efforts were not in vain. Like you now are doing stuff for others who are, you have advanced in life to a place of being able to take care of others, and you'll continue to do so, especially with this conversion therapy dropout. But, you keep talking about these boards you were serving on a few years ago, and you guys can't see him, but Curtis, you're young, okay? Youth flows from you. How old were you when you were serving on these boards?
Well, I joined one of the boards when I was 21.
God.
I think. Yeah. So it was only one of the boards, it was a small startup organization, but I mean, obviously very well connected, and connected to the Personal Stories Project. And so that's kind of how I met David and Nikki that way. But yeah, so I was 21 at the time. I'm 27 now, so I'm young, but I'm quickly reaching gay death, as a lot of people have told me when I
Just say
was.
let's not perpetuate that because
I know
if you're approaching gay death, I'm well beyond the afterlife. um,
well, I hear that the afterlife's pretty fun. Then I don't know,
I
but
mean, I
that's
will say that I mean, people always talk about, in your mid 30s is where things start, you just stop giving a shit. And whether
yeah.
it was COVID or whatever, I am certainly there. In the, there's an old country song, maybe like 20 years ago, called "My Give a Damn's Busted." Did you ever remember that song?
No.
Yeah. So my give a damn is busted. That's for sure, and it's not going to get fixed. What was the Personal Stories Project? What's that organization about?
So I didn't serve on that board, but that's run by Charles and Joseph Chan Massey, and
Oh
they're
yeah, yeah, yeah,
very,
yeah.
yeah, you know them, I think.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, I love them to death. And so they teamed up with the organization that I was part of previously, and Charles was serving on the board of that. I mean, that organization has since shut down, but Personal Stories Project still continues, and I still partner with them frequently.
Wow.
And so it was kind of an organization that worked with the other one, and then they had the garden party where I met David and Nikki.
Did
Um,
that organization kind of give birth to your own org?
Personal Stories Project, or
Yeah, like did that
yeah,
contribute to you deciding there's a need that I can help to fill with the conversion therapy dropout?
not really. I mean, obviously, having that experience with the other organizations, yes, and realizing, but really, what did it was that I went to a conference called Creating Change. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's basically a nationwide, sometimes international. We have a lot of Canadian organizations come down to the U.S. for it as well. And it's just this big conference of all of the major organizations and all of the startup organizations. And it's just like 4 to 5 days long. And there's just workshops all day long, networking events all day long. And there was a conversion therapy survivor who lived in St. Louis. And I, of course, had already moved here at that time and I wasn't living there, but I still had connections, and they wanted to connect me with this survivor. And I spoke with them and talked about their experience and whatnot. And one of the things they asked me was, is there an organization, for survivors? And there wasn't at that time. I mean, obviously there's like Born Perfect and Trevor Project, and they're great, but their primary focus is the legislation and the activism. And they were specifically looking for an organization for community, and just where we can, have events for conversion therapy survivors, and it's not intensive. Because I mean, getting up and testifying and taking action with your story is very intimidating when you're first coming into, really looking at what happened to you and the trauma that you feel.
And you
So
know
that's
that
really where it came
that
from.
firsthand.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
You
I kind of did it.
let's go back to that because I want to
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
before we get into what the conversion therapy dropout organization does to serve other
Mhm.
survivors. I want to get to I mean, when you were 16 and submitted to conversion therapy, was
Yeah.
that a thing that your family did, or was they were convinced by a pastor? How did that come about, or was it even you
Yeah.
that did it?
So they, so I came out to them, and it didn't go over very well, of course.
Were you
I
raised
grew up,
religious?
yeah, so my family was non-denominational Disciples of Christ, which is a denomination, but whatever. And so grew up relatively religious. I didn't go to church every Sunday. And, still to this day, I've never read the Bible all the way through.
You're
Um,
not missing much.
yeah, no, I don't think so. I found it boring personally, but that's just my personal opinion. But so they so when I came out, they kind of freaked out. And in their mind, the small town, 7,000 people, very conservative ideals, mostly Republican. Um, it they had bad ideals about the LGBTQ community. And of course, it wasn't the LGBTQ community, it was the gays, right? It was the homosexuals. And in their mind, it was, gay men get AIDS and they die. and they live promiscuous lives, and they're unhappy, and they're abused, and they're just dirty. And that's that's the same thing that was instilled in me before I even realized that I was gay. I remember growing up that my other peers were like, "Oh, so and so's gay, he's gross, he's gonna die of AIDS." That was the thinking. Of course, that's horribly wrong.
Yeah.
But at the time, that's what people thought. And I don't, I would assume it's shifted since then, hopefully, but that's what was there. So my parents were very scared for me, and weren't accepting. And they went through my search history on my laptop, or not my laptop, we didn't have those then. Went through my desktop computer history, and found where I'd been part of some chat rooms and chatting with other gay men. And that kind of really freaked them out, because that was at the point, I was a minor, and that was when, the internet was starting to become really big, and MySpace was a thing, and people were scared that, if you reveal who you are, someone's going to show up and steal you immediately, so they freaked out, and they found a counselor down in Kentucky named Joseph Williams. And he was a conversion therapist, and they found him. I'm not sure how they found him. I think they called around to try and find a Christian counselor, because they wanted someone in the faith. They were afraid that if they got someone that wasn't Christian, that they would try to convince me not to be Christian, I guess.
Or worse, try to convince your parents to think that being gay is okay.
Right, or that too. Yeah, probably both.
How far of a drive was that from Southern Illinois?
So he is in Mayfield, and that was about an hour and a half drive.
Okay.
Yeah. But I mean, that's an hour and a half Midwest driving. So that's just straight 65 miles an hour down the road the whole time.
Right. So they found this counselor who was a Christian faith counselor, which I feel like is actually an oxymoron, because if your faith is determining your counseling efforts, it seems a little biased already, but continue.
Yes. Yeah. No, that and that is a big thing, is that, you can be a Christian counselor, but it's not about you. If someone wants faith-based counseling, that's all cool, but like, if they don't, it's not about you. It's not about your beliefs,
Right.
But anyway, I could go into that all day. So they took me there, and it was a talk therapy session. It wasn't one of those camps that you see where people are beating pillows and screaming at their mother and, all that stuff. It was mostly talk therapy. And my parents would go in for an hour and talk to him, and I would go in for an hour and talk to him. Sometimes I would switch, but he would give me, a list of treatment plans, essentially, of how he was going to treat my sexuality. I was diagnosed with the possibility of having an introverted personality. There's just a lot to go into, a lot of gaslighting, a lot of really breaking down my self-worth and attempting to rebuild my self-image in his image, or what he would say would be God's image, to make me the man God wanted me to be. Word for word is some things that he said.
But he convinced your parents that he could, in essence, cure you of this affliction, this sinful affliction.
Yes. Well, and here's the really heinous thing, is that, of course, we know that doesn't work. So yes, he can cure me, but only if I want to be cured. Right. So like, if I didn't put it, if it wasn't working, then I wasn't trying hard enough.
Right. It's not his fault. It's yours.
It's not his fault. It's my fault. And they need to push me a bit further so that I do that. They threatened at some points to pull me out of school. I was supposed to limit time with gay affirming friends, with air quotes, just really heinous stuff like that. A lot of isolation tactics and self-shame.
I love that they created a term to make the word ally seem bad. Gay affirming friends has like a negative connotation to it.
Yeah.
Oh God. We'll get into like where you are with your parents today, because they have since evolved a bit, right?
Oh yes.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. Yeah. So at what point in this conversion therapy did you or your parents or someone else say, "Okay, it's not working. This is not right"?
Well, at the time I didn't know anything about my family. Since then, just a few months ago, my parents did make a recording of their their recollection of what happened. And so I kind of have more insight into their thinking. But, my point, there's a lot there. I mean, there was a lot because you almost get, Stockholm syndrome almost, where it's like you just start going along with it because you're dealing with all this emotional trauma and abuse, and you just start going with it.
Well, and part of the gay
Yeah.
trauma, especially at that age, is, I mean, from childhood, is not being validated, not feeling okay or safe. So when
Right.
you're going through a process where they're saying you can feel valid and safe and worthy if you do these things, that's where the Stockholm syndrome comes in. Like, you're going to want to pursue these efforts to feel safe and validated.
Right. No, absolutely. And I think for me, when he started getting into the really heinous stuff, I remember one of the things that was on my treatment list is or no, not one of the things on the treatment list, but some of the things he said to try and like validate my experiences, that I'm not destined to go to hell as long as I don't act on my, sinful nature.
Oh,
As
thank
long as
God.
Yeah, as long as I don't engage in homosexual lifestyle, I'll be fine. And one of the things he said was, just like rageaholics, rapists, murderers, and child molesters, homosexuals are predispositioned to sin, and it is up to me if I act on my sin or not, or choose to live, or choose to not act on my sinful predispositions.
Don't you love when they
Um,
group us in with like all these chosen behavior lifestyles?
yeah,
I still have a cousin, and I love them dearly, but they are still and maybe there's probably more of my family than I know of than is like this as well. But that idea of hate the sin, love the sinner, which is the
yeah,
most toxic thing that a Christian can tell a gay person or anybody,
yeah,
really. I mean, it's so the antithesis of what I think Christianity is.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
but so, I mean, but when you were going through this, like, you were trying to appease this therapist, appease your parents.
Yes. Hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the big one for me when I was done was when he, and I'm 16 and just coming into my sexuality, and of course, my sexuality is like being confused. At one point, I told him I was going to be asexual, and he told me that that's fine because eunuchs were praised in the Bible, word for word. And
I love when Christians bring in the eunuchs.
I was like, that's not really the same thing. That's not at all what we're talking about. Um, but anyway, and then he also talked about Pavlov's dogs and told me that I needed to masturbate to the image of women to reroute my neural pathways so that I find pleasure in the image of women rather than men. And so that one, I was like, whoa, like, we're not talking about that. Like, that's very personal. And like, I had never even talked to him about that before. So he just brought it up. I was like, okay. And I think that, along with, me becoming very depressed, obviously, and my parents just kept saying, that I'm pulling away from them, that I don't want to engage with them, which of course, that really kind of set up flags for them. And I found out later that, they were also feeling shitty too. He was making them feel like shit too.
Hmm.
That they're failures, it's their fault, they didn't do enough, and now this guy's having to fix it, essentially. They let the homosexual agenda into their family, and now they're having to deal with it.
So it's a reflection on their parenting as to your
Yes.
affliction. Yeah.
Yeah.
What this scapegoating, this gaslighting of this therapist? I mean, I can't even call him a therapist because he's actually just an abuser.
Yeah.
It also, I would love to know what he thinks about during sexual activities, because for him to be so forcibly oppressing your own identity, it sounds like he's trying to achieve the same within himself. And if he can convince you, then maybe it cements his own view of himself.
Yeah. Well, interestingly, he is a licensed counselor. He is licensed by the state of Kentucky to be a social worker.
Yeah, but like, what are the standards
But
in
he's
Kentucky?
not. Yeah, he's not. And I mean, I can talk to that point, but yeah, so it's interesting because on his website, which is still up, you can still find it. He talks about his sexuality and his statement of sexuality, and I don't know why I want to know about his sexuality because it's not about him, like I said before, but it says that he lives a celibate lifestyle, and if if he finds a partner to marry, it'll be a woman, and he talks about how he's had same-sex attractions and dealt with those issues before. So I'm like, all right, so you're a queer too. Like,
Yeah.
you're right there with us. You just hate yourself so much that
Yep.
you're projecting onto other people.
And what's heartbreaking too is that, I mean, as much as, my rage is lit in speaking about this man and his quote unquote therapeutic efforts, it's actually heartbreaking to think about him living this, full life. I mean, aging into, I don't know how old he is, but without love, without being able to connect with another human being on an intimate level. And I try to remember that. And that one of the things I love about your organization, which again, I keep putting off until we get through the backstory, is that the organization seems to have such a grace and a space for redemption. And not redemption as it relates to people like you and I who have gone through conversion therapy, but to people who have been our antagonists and people like this therapist. And if they can then have a more evolved sense of growth as it pertains to the LGBTQ community. You even have an article about McCrae Game, I think that is his name, and saying like he's gotten so much backlash about him finally coming to his true senses. And you're saying, look, like what he did was abhorrent, but he can then now go and save lives rather than destroy them. And we have to allow that space.
Yeah, no, absolutely. With him, it's funny that you talk about how it's sad for my therapist. And normally, like, I would feel that way, but because he's mine, I'm just like, I don't care.
Right.
He can be unhappy for the rest of his life and he deserves it. Yep. And and that's kind of how people feel about McCrae Game, for the people that he abused. And I don't vilify them for that. They have every right to feel that way. And it's such a weird situation because up until now, we haven't really seen anyone like him come forward before. We've seen people come forward, be like, oh yeah, we're gay. I think it was, what was it, Exodus or
Exodus
one of
International,
them. Yeah, where they got married and everything, but that was it. They didn't do anything. And one of the things that I really pointed out in the article that we released was that, it's not just enough for him to come out against it. He actively needs to get out there and try to make the community a better place. Otherwise, yes, like, okay, then
is he doing that work?
Yeah, he seems to be doing some good things, speaking out, sharing his story, trying to make amends. He seems to be trying to do that.
It's probably a process. I mean, I don't know how long ago he came out again, but I imagine that it's we kind of have to allow the space for him, for his own comfort level with his voice in the community now. But hopefully he'll get there. I mean, my gosh, there's a lot of stakes on his shoulders.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm sure he deals with a great deal of remorse as well. And it is really sad, because he was brainwashed just like my parents were. And we at least need to give him space to explore his own feelings as well as attempt to help the cause. It's if he fails to do so is when I feel we could then criticize him and be like, okay, well, you did all this, but then you've done nothing to atone for it. What are you even doing here?
Well, what got you to the point of having the ability to speak before Congress about banning conversion therapy in Kentucky?
I just kind of did it.
How did you, I mean, did you like apply for a slot in their session or?
Yeah, so I met one of my best friends. Her name is Tara Bell. She still lives in Southern Illinois, but she was an instructor at the community college that I went to, and she was taking an acting class just to fill the time, and we were assigned a scene together, and we started just talking about things. And I told her, obviously I was out, but I told her my parents weren't accepting, and we just kind of got into more detail about my story. And she was the one that actually told me what conversion therapy was. And, told me that that's what I had been taken to. And so then she sent me a link to the Southern Poverty Law Center.
So you did not even know during your conversion therapy that you were being submitted to conversion therapy?
No, I had no idea. I had no idea what it was.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't even know the pride parades were a thing until I went to college. I had no idea what was happening. Obviously. Yeah. I mean, that's probably different today for most people, but
Sure.
back then there wasn't a lot for me to
Right.
even know where to go.
So she
Facebook wasn't even
said,
really a thing.
honey, this is what you went through.
Yeah.
Here's a link to some resources at the SPLC.
Yeah. Yes. So I reported it and they reached out to me. And actually, Sam Wolf, who was one of the attorneys that worked on the Jonah case in New Jersey, was assigned to my case essentially. And Southern Poverty Law Center paid for my way to go to Chicago to meet with Equality Illinois and Representative Kelly Cassidy, who was sponsoring the bill or was the author of the bill to ban conversion therapy in Illinois. And that's kind of how it went. And I just went from there, became the poster child for the movement. And every time there's a hearing or press release or anything, they always stuck me up in front of it to get my story out there.
Wow. So
I kind of just jumped right in.
yeah, and thank God you did. So when this was going on, where were your parents in all this? Were they like, "Oh, son, please don't cause any waves. Like we've gotten to this point of accepting you,
Yes.
but like, please don't." Like,
Yeah.
where were they with this?
So during that time, it really turned into kind of a don't ask, don't tell, really. Once I turned 18 or approaching 18 rather, they knew that, nothing they could say was going to change me. And, they just kind of became like, we just don't want to hear about it. We don't want to hear about you going and hanging out with your boyfriend, because I'd gotten a partner at that point, and, they didn't want to hear about it. And when this started happening, they were starting to come around a little bit, but not too much. But when I reported it, it kind of took a little bit for them to do anything with it. And then I had gone away to finish my 4-year degree elsewhere, and I was moving away. I was going to Northern Illinois to school, and it's just kind of like a switch. And my parents like switched, it just kind of clicked, and they were like, "Oh my God, here's our son, he's moving out of the house, and, we've done nothing to really connect with him for the past 4 years, And they just my dad told me, he's like, if being gay is something that's going to get in between our relationship with you, then it doesn't matter. And they just realized right then that, it didn't matter. And they realized that what we'd gone to was bad and wrong. And yeah, but they were still a little bit hesitant. Obviously, they look in my story, they look very bad. It does not shine good light on them. And, they were very hesitant to bring any light to it. They were worried about, any ramifications it could have for them. As far as being, broadcasted across the state, it really freaked them out just because it didn't look good for them. But I eventually, I did it anyway. and it worked out, but then in the end, it turned around where they were, very proud for what I was doing and helping people and trying to make actual change. So.
Right. So this was, I'm sorry, I think I said it wrong, but I thought the ban was in Kentucky, but it was actually Illinois where the ban took place.
It was Illinois. Right. Yeah. No,
okay,
Kentucky
cool.
still does not have a ban on the books. I am helping with that one. Not in the same capacity since I'm several states away, but I am still assisting and lending my story and other things as well out there.
And at the end of this, we're going to talk about what we can do as an audience also to help those efforts, whether it be financially or just signing petitions or calling senators. We'll get there. So you spoke before Congress. I mean, that had to be like a little unnerving to know like how pivotal your story was in changing law.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They didn't put too much pressure on me just because they knew that I was expressing my trauma to them. They really put a lot more pressure on mental health professionals that were advocating against it. And really, the opposition was really grilling them. They mostly left me alone. I do know that there was some staunch opposition, and a specific representative who actually stormed out of the committee meeting because she realized she wasn't going to win and that they were going to pass it through. And so she left the meeting and abstained from the vote, which is really funny.
What's her name?
But oh God, I actually don't remember her name. I don't remember. I don't think she got reelected that next time.
Oh,
so yeah,
bless her.
Was it Jeannie Ives? Jeannie Ives was her name.
Okay.
Representative Jeannie Ives.
I'll have to just give her a good look up.
Yeah, she's a piece of work. Oh my gosh, she got into a screaming fight with the representative that was sponsoring the bill over it because she was just essentially lying on what the bill contained, and they were just back and forth, back and forth. It was entertaining. But then I'm like,
Wow.
this is why bills get stuck.
Yeah, no,
So,
you're so right. I bet you learned a lot through that process.
yeah.
But obviously, you guys won.
Yes, we did. The governor of Illinois signed it into law. He actually talked with the sponsor or the author of the bill, Representative Cassidy, and told her that after hearing my story, he realized that it was something that he needed to take action on because it's actively affecting youth in his state. And he was a very Republican governor, but
Yeah.
he listened to my story and actually saw the need for the law. So.
God, I wonder if that could happen today, being where we are so polarized. If a Republican would be willing to swallow their ignorance and pride in order to think about other people. But I probably know the answer.
I mean, I think so. I think so. We've got some of those that are still, I mean, they still consider themselves Republican, but they're pulling away, obviously, after the past, feels like 70 years, but over the past administration, there were actually Republicans that co-sponsored the bill.
Really?
And we're on board with it. I mean, obviously, I didn't talk with them about anything else, but with this, they realized it was a problem. And
do you think that it's coming from them having gay neighbors, gay sons, gay siblings?
I don't know. I didn't really talk to them that much. One specifically, and his name is also escaping me, and I don't think I'll remember that one. But I don't remember what his reasoning was. I just know that they were like, yeah, he's our Republican ally that's really pushing for this and helping. And he was always there and telling me that I did a good job and that, it was great that I was there. So
Curtis, what an experience.
Nice.
God.
Yeah.
I'm so thankful that even if you didn't at the time fully understand the gravity of it, I'm so thankful that you were able to go through with that and be that voice, because that then led to you recognizing the need for, okay, we're making these changes, but what about those that didn't make the cut of the change? What about those that went through this process already? How can I provide healing to them? And one of the things that I'm recognizing in this podcast as well is that, I started this podcast kind of because I want to squash religion. That has since changed into me having a desire to challenge religion because I'm seeing that so many people in our community, and not just the gay community, but the other letters of the rainbow as well, because of us being brought up in these religious communities, we still have this need for an intimate spiritual community. And that's what I love about your organization too. And you spoke to how the Trevor Project and these other organizations do work on the legislation and the activism, but what you provide through your organization is that community. And you even have a Sunday service in essence about getting together and just talking about your stories. And that connection is where the divine lies. So when did you say, okay, there's a need, I'm going to meet it?
Yeah. And it's after church too. So you can
you can do both. Yeah.
Yeah. So the organization, came about from that conversation. And my boss for my day job, because obviously my organization, I don't do that full time. He's also gay, and he wanted to help with my organization. And so I set everything up, filed all the things, and got it going, and started the Survivor Sunday because I realized that, they needed to, survivors wanted to connect with each other. They want to share their stories, share, struggles, and it really helps. And, when we have these Survivor Sundays, it's always really nice because, I always prepare questions and different things, but I don't ever really need it, because it just kind of flows, and they're sharing their stories and getting feedback. And if Joe Schmo over here has an issue with where he doesn't like to be out in public because he's scared of XYZ, little Susie over here has the same experience, and she has some advice for him on what he can do to alleviate that. And I think it's been really great, and then we used to have them in person, and obviously we haven't been having them in person.
Sure.
But, we've been able to connect with survivors across the country, internationally, actually.
Wow.
We've had people sign in from New Zealand, from London. Just last month, we had a gentleman sign in from a small town of 4,000 people in Ireland. Just sign on and talk about his experience. And, it's just been really great just to have these survivors across the world just talking about their experiences and sharing what they went through and comparing the similarities between their stories. And, we do recognize that each story is going to be slightly different, but when you boil it down to the traumas that we experience, it's all very, very similar.
Yep.
And we all struggle with the same types of PTSD, essentially.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I imagine that going digital has probably allowed you to expand your reach as well, and not just be here in LA, but like this guy in Ireland can then log on.
Yeah, absolutely. At first I wasn't very happy about it. Of course, none of us really were. And our attendance wavered a little bit during COVID. It's very strange. There's an actual phenomenon that happened with conversion therapy survivors that kind of re-traumatized people with COVID. And there's a whole like psychological phenomenon that happened with some of us. But yeah, so we want to get back into physical space, but we're going to continue having these virtual meetups because so many people can log on and talk to people across the country and across the world, and really put a face to just how widespread conversion therapy is and how many different forms it takes.
Sure. Did the efforts that you were a part of in Illinois in banning conversion therapy, has that set precedents for other cases and bills in other states? I don't really know how that works.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So it all was built off of kind of the case in New Jersey. Even though California was the first to pass a ban, they didn't actually get it enacted until after New Jersey did it. So New Jersey got theirs in first, and theirs was the strongest case that it was consumer fraud. And so that's really kind of been the building block.
Wow.
Yeah, it's because you can't say that you can change someone's sexuality because that's not something that you can,
right.
You can't do that. And so you're basically selling snake oil, and they won the case with that. And that's been the precedent.
Fascinating.
Mm-hmm. So a lot of consumer fraud, and it varies differently from state to state. But I know that like Kentucky was working or is working with Illinois to kind of mimic kind of what they did with it. So it's definitely, working in other places and setting precedents for it.
Do you know how many states have not banned conversion therapy?
A majority of them, but I don't remember the exact number right now.
So we have a lot. So we have work to do.
Yeah. I think we're in the teens when it comes to the ones that have. So we still have a lot to do. We are seeing a phenomenon where a lot more municipalities are banning conversion therapy.
Oh, okay. So like the city centers, which is where most queer individuals end up living.
Right. Yeah. So we're seeing that a lot, and that's happened in Kentucky because even though, the bill didn't get through this past session, we're seeing municipalities passing it. And, I mean, I'm always posting almost weekly about someone else that's either doing something or a governor that's coming out against it and urging Congress to pass these bills. So it's definitely gaining a lot more traction, and different strategies are being used.
What kind of backlash did you receive from your experience in testifying before Congress and working to get this passed?
I didn't really get any. Which is very disappointing.
Right.
I did get a letter because I published an article in the Chicago Sun-Times, and I got a response. And I don't know if they did the research and found out where I was living at college or if the editor forwarded it to me. But I got a response letter basically saying I'd been brainwashed by the homosexual agenda and that I was going to get AIDS and die. Like literally, that's what it said. And so that's really the only one.
I'm so sorry. I'll write you one if you want. I can really whip it out.
Yeah, I mean, I've got some colleagues that have whole websites
Right.
dedicated to trying to destroy their work, and I'm just like, God, you've made it. You've got one of those. I
I
don't have
know.
one yet.
Well, it's you know what they say, bad press is still good press.
I know. It's like I need my face plastered with like all kinds of crazy shit. Like that'd be great.
I know. So you'd mentioned like some of the things you post. Where can we find what you post? Like where's your site?
Yeah, so we're conversiontherapydropout.org. Um, And then we also have our Facebook where we post a lot of things. That's a majority where you'll find like the event pages that'll reroute you to Eventbrite, but you can always find it on our calendar and our website. We're on Instagram at Conversion Therapy Dropout, Twitter at Dropout Therapy. We also have YouTube for some videos, and we have a TikTok.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah. So we've got a lot going on.
What are the call to actions? Like how are you, because you're a 501c nonprofit. So
Yes.
how are you funded entirely by just private donations, or do you hold
Yes.
fundraisers and
A little both. I mean, we've hosted a few fundraisers this year, but mostly it's just private donations. People putting in donations on our Facebook, doing Facebook fundraisers, going to our website and donating. We've got Venmo and PayPal, so it's all there. But yeah, we're entirely funded by individuals, and we actually there. I do have to shout out the VIP nightclub in Riverside. They actually did a whole month last month of their drag bingo, and all the proceeds from their drag bingo nights went to us. So they were able to give us over $600 of
oh,
donation,
how
which is
far
a
how far does $600 go with with the organization?
I mean, it'll go pretty far right now, considering that we're mostly all online. It'll probably last us about 3 or 4 months, I would
Yeah.
say.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
But once we
what
start getting into physical space again,
yes,
which we want to do, it's when all of our expenses go right back up.
sure.
We really had to scale back during COVID. So.
What are your non-monetary needs? Like if somebody, is like, "Oh my God, I want to contribute to this, but I don't have the funds," what can they do?
Oh yeah, volunteer. I mean, I just listed off all of our social media accounts, and oh my God, that's a lot to handle.
Yeah.
So we always need help with that, keeping up with postings, and doing outreach. We really need some people to go out there and do outreach. We're really trying to reach the POC communities,
Yep.
because right now conversion therapy has a very white centric view.
Hmm.
And we're really trying to change that, and really trying to crack down on how it affects different intersections of communities. And it does, it affects every intersection of the community, and we want to know how. So doing outreach, and just any sort of skill. Fundraising is always good,
Hmm.
and any sort of collaborations, we're always very happy. So
Well, and
we're always in need of volunteers.
I post if there's an organization involved with one of my guests, I always post a fundraiser for them on my social media. So I'm going to link that for the audience as well. And so far, I mean,
Yeah.
I've had some very generous people, thankfully,
Oh, thank you.
some of whom
Yeah.
have really wished to stay private. So hopefully we can raise some more money for you after this episode
That'd be
launches.
great. Yeah.
I imagine that you hear from a lot of survivor people that may not call themselves survivors yet because they're in the midst of, so they are
Yes.
surviving. Is there a need for like house parents and people like, I mean, Nikki and David didn't rescue you out of therapy, but like, I have no doubt that they would open up their homes to someone
Oh, they
who
would have.
needed
Yeah.
that. But like, do you have people on a list that say, I'm an ally. I, have a gay son who's moved out. Like I want to open my home up to people that need to get out of their parents' house.
We haven't really had any of that because that's such a difficult situation. We do get calls, so we have a hotline, and we do get calls from people that are going to be sent to conversion therapy. And they're kind of asking, what do they do? And I mean, there's not really anything I can tell them,
Yeah.
other than that's going to happen. You know, I do reach out to organizations that kind of do deal with that, try to get them connected. But usually, you know, when that happens, it's that one phone call and you lose connection with them, and then they
Yeah.
don't, you know, and we have a policy where we don't call someone back unless they tell us it's okay,
Right.
because we don't want to get them in trouble and put them
Yeah.
in danger. You know, the sad part is a lot of times, you know, these are minors, and
Yep.
there's really not a whole lot that we can do. You know, I turn it over to Trevor Project and Born Perfect usually is who I go to for that, because they have the legal teams that can handle stuff like that.
Yep.
But unfortunately, you know, when we get these calls, there's really not a lot I can do except offer them, you know, words of comfort,
Yeah.
you know, and it's usually very short conversations before they hang up the phone.
Oh, God.
So,
I always, or I've started giving a tag at the end of the podcast to the Suicide Prevention Hotline and also Trevor Project's hotline for young adults and youth under 25. But I'm going to look up Born Perfect and try to link them as well as an additional resource for people. Where are we on the national stage of banning conversion therapy? Is that even something that's in debate, or?
Yes and no. Federally, I think obviously the federal government's super overwhelmed with absolutely everything right now. You know, they have had federal regulations proposed, but they've always died. They've never gone anywhere. Word on the street is Mitch McConnell actually is not a supporter of conversion therapy, but I can not confirm that. But word on the street is.
I wonder if his buddy Lindsey Graham is.
Oh man.
We'll digress.
Yeah, I digress from that. No, I don't think that we're going to be seeing any federal work coming out anytime soon, which is really unfortunate. You know, our neighbors in Canada are working really hard to get this taken care of, and they're taking an approach that we haven't here. They're taking it from an approach that, you know, even in religious settings, it's not allowed.
Yep.
And that's not something that is regulated here in the U.S.
Yep.
So, you know, vast majority of conversion therapy survivors come from religious leaders, and they can just keep on doing what they're doing. They're not regulating that.
Yep. I understand that it's part of the American fabric is that freedom of religion. But you
can't abuse people. That's correct. The thing.
You can't, but and that's where I just think I mean, it's a slippery slope, I guess, but there's got to be a regulation that supersedes opinion, which is all religion is.
Absolutely.
Wow. What, did you ever see the movie Latter Days?
No.
Okay. This movie is probably at this point, I mean, 15 years old. It was an independent feature. The writer, I forget his name. I think JB or, oh my God, he's my Facebook friend. He's gone on to write like other crazy hit films, but Latter Days was really like a beautiful independent feature about this gay Mormon who is coming to terms with himself. Joseph Gordon-Levitt is in it. It's got a cool cast, and there's a scene where the lead character, the Mormon, is in conversion therapy, and it's where he's in the ice bath and he's got the electrodes on his penis that basically shock his dick every time a male nude pops up on the screen. And while I am so thankful that was not your experience, that still happens today. I mean, I think I think it's a little more regulated, but like there are circles where this still occurs. Are you aware of those, or do you know? I mean, I want to do whatever we can off this episode to inspire my audience, to call people, to post things, to storm the doors of these kinds of facilities. Where are they? What can we do?
Yeah, so I don't know of any specific facility that does that. I do know it happens. I do know that one of my previous board members for this organization had a similar experience of that kind of torturous stuff. But I don't know of anything now. But I mean, yeah, there's church. Let's see, there's a church in a small town in Illinois called the Loft Church. They do homosexual demon exorcisms.
Great.
Joseph Nicolosi's son, Joseph Nicolosi Jr., is still doing his father's work in Encino here in California. There's a man named Tim Long in Beverly Hills that's doing it.
In Beverly Hills.
Beverly Hills. Uh-huh. He's calling it restoration therapy or restorative, reintegrative therapy, I think. It's funny because he tries to hide it, but then you can still find his name attached to things that are in different languages, but then you just translate it and it's just talking about conversion therapy. And he's like
Hmm.
gone to other countries to do these things.
And his name is Tim Long,
Tim Long,
and he's in
I
Beverly
believe.
Hills.
Yes.
Is he a therapist or is he a pastor?
He I believe that he is a therapist. He's a therapist, but here's the thing: is that he doesn't perform conversion therapy on anyone under the age of 18, which is still a problem because there are
Hmm.
18-year-olds that still rely on their families and still live with them and still, even though they have full autonomy, they're still reliant on somebody.
Legally,
And the people,
yeah.
yeah, legally not, but I mean that it's either that or the street, sometimes.
Hmm.
And people that are over the age of 18, adults can still feel pressure from their family to go, and he is
Yeah.
getting clients, so it's happening, and
God.
I do feel sorry for the people that go of their own volition too, because it's like they are that scared and that just that threatened by their own selves because of what they've been brought up in, that they
Yep.
go to these kinds of people. So yeah, they're
Yep.
still doing it. It's
Who
still
is this
happening.
this Joseph Nicolosi you just mentioned?
And so he's the one that had the camps. He's kind of known as the father of um, modern day conversion therapy. Even though, I mean, obviously conversion therapy has roots in the 1800s, but he's really the one that kind of took it to the next level with trying to integrate psychology into it and doing like when you see those documentaries about the rebirthing, where you have these groups of men, they're all the camaraderie and doing the punching of the pillows while
Uh-huh.
screaming at mom and dad about their traumas. He's the one that really did that. I forget what his organization was called, and
It's
someone's
not
gonna kick.
important. We're gonna
Yeah,
squash it anyway.
yeah, yeah. Well, I'm gonna get kicked for forgetting that one, but no, his son's still doing it. His son's still doing it.
God.
So,
I'm gonna
and
be
there,
going down the I'm notorious for popping an edible and then going off the handle online with these kinds of organizations. So
oh, good.
I cannot wait to go down the rabbit hole on this one and wreak some havoc.
There's a group in St. Charles, Missouri, and we actually sent them hundreds of letters of opposition to their mailbox. So in one day, they probably got like 250 envelopes of people telling them basically to off.
Hmm.
So it's always nice. It's a nice feeling.
But
But yeah, they're up.
are those efforts posted on your social media, like where you say, "Hey, we just got wind of this information and this address. Whoever can write letters, please, mail this
Yeah.
senator, this pastor, opposition letters."
We did for that one. Yes, we did for
Okay.
that one. We haven't done any of that since, but there's always a possibility of doing that again.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. And on the site too, I just want people to know that there are links to where you can donate money, and there's also going to be links on my social media where you can also donate to this as well. Obviously, a
Mhm.
tax write-off. So the more the merrier, but
Yeah.
any amount counts. You just heard a little bit ago how $600 could potentially last you, while you're not in a physical space for a few months.
Yeah.
But it would be nice to know that you're sustained for the next few years if somebody was feeling
Yeah.
extra generous,
That would be
because
nice. Yeah.
this is truly, I mean, your efforts are more than pivotal. They are truly life or death. I mean, there are probably people, and I'm sure that you hear this in your Sunday community group, but this is saving lives. What you're doing. I mean, the
Mhm.
trauma that ensues from going through this bullshit conversion therapy
Mhm.
leads to addiction, leads to crime, leads to suicide, leads
Mhm.
to future abuse of other people in your life. And what you're
Mhm.
doing is honestly saving these lives. And I'm so thankful that you are committed to this cause. And it, so are you able to look back now at your conversion therapy as, while I wish I had not gone through it, it has informed your purpose on this planet.
Oh, absolutely. I always say that I'm thankful I went to it, because I got through it and was
Yeah.
able to turn it into something good. But had I not been there, that would have been, a 2-hour time slot that some other kid could have gone to.
Yeah.
You know.
There's a new show. I don't know if you read the trades, but Deadline, I think it was Deadline. Bloomhouse is developing a conversion therapy series right now. And there's a few names attached to it. I forget, and there's some good names attached to it. But being Bloomhouse, I'm interested as to their take on it because they do a bit of like the surrealism approach to genres. But I've read the script and it's. I'm excited to see what they. I mean, it's going to advocate for these bands and to really showcase the trauma and PTSD that comes out of this. But yeah, I'm excited to see what they do with it. And I told my agents too. I was like, look, I've been there. This is for me. Please get me in for this office. Like I must read for this. But yeah, this has been such a treat, Curtis. I'm just so thankful for your time and for what you do for the community. I'm so thankful that the universe put us in a 45-minute car ride in a gig economy from Beverly Hills to Azusa. And I'm so thankful that you have just landed firmly on your feet in this city and that it's receiving you well. Thank you for calling these names out because I think that's also very important to not let these bitches lie under the radar, but to call them out. Because if their hearts are not going to change, we have to change what their title is.
Absolutely.
Get them the fuck out of there.
Yeah, well, that's another thing is one thing I wanted to add is I've actually recently filed an ethics complaint against my conversion therapist with the Board of Social Work in Kentucky. And it's moving forward, and we'll see what happens with it.
Is he aware of it? I guess.
Oh yeah, he's aware of it. He's aware of it.
I'm sure that his lawyers have told him not to communicate with you, but has he tried to reach out and be like, "What are you doing? Like, this works."
Yeah, well, I can't speak to specifics right now, but he has denied that he did anything wrong, which of course, but. We'll just see what happens. We'll see what happens.
Is there anything that we can do as an audience to back up those claims as well and to mail him or to mail whatever lawyers are representing you?
Yeah. Well, I would encourage anyone not to do that. Just kind of leave it alone. Unless you did go to a Joseph Williams in Kentucky, in which case, if you had an experience with him, it would be very, 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 very helpful to have that information as well, because I mean, you know, the more people we have come forward with these claims, the more that's against him.
Yeah, absolutely.
But right now we're just letting the Board of Social Work do their work and let them do it. Okay,
well, we will wish for the best for that, and hopefully you'll be able to post updates on your social media as that progresses as well.
Oh yeah, when it's all said and done, I fully intend to do a full recap of everything that went on.
Yes, we will wish for that then. Curtis, thank you again. And just as a reminder, tell us where we can find you and the organization.
Yeah, so I mean, you can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram. You can also email me, curtis@conversiontherapydropout.org. That's Curtis with a C. You can also find our organization on all social media, and you can find us at conversiontherapydropout.org is our website, and there are links to all of our social media there as well.
And the needs that you guys have as an organization.
Yes.
Awesome.
We would love to volunteer. We would love to have you.
Awesome. Curtis, thank you again. And I look forward to chatting with you another time, okay?
Absolutely. Thank you.
If you or someone you know is struggling with mental health or suicidal thoughts, there are resources and trained professionals available 24/7. It's okay to not be okay. Please call 800-273-TALK, 800-273-8255, or by going to suicidepreventionlifeline.org. For youth and young adults under 25, the Trevor Project is available 24/7 at 866-488-7386. and at thetrevorproject.org. The Fagnostic Podcast is a Matt Hayes production, hosted by, you guessed it, Matt Hayes. You can find me at matthayes.com, that's MATHAYES.com, or on all the socials at Hayes on it, HAYES on it. Music by Michael Spicer. The Fagnostic Podcast is proud to be supported by the Del Shore Studio. Whether you're acting from a pulpit or a proscenium, whether you're writing for a Bible study or a scene study, the Del Shore Studio is an online school offering classes and workshops encouraging all artists to scratch deeper. Visit thedelshorestudio.com for more information.